What up, Bulls Nation? Coming up on CHGO Bulls today, what's the latest in the Josh Giddey watch of the restricted free agent? Jake Fischer, the People's Insider, joins us to break down some of his reporting from over the weekend and more. Plus, the NBA's full 25-26 season schedule release drops in just a couple of days. What should Bulls be on the lookout for? Next. What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into the CHGO Bulls podcast. Coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck. That's my guy, Will the GOAT. Perfectly coiffed, Gottlieb. Bow, bow. Will_Gottlieb. And Queen of the Controls, the one and only Katie Duffy. What up, Katie?
Hello.
Happy Monday, y'all, out there in Bulls Nation. Kicking off another week of dog days. I love it. It's so hot. And we got nothing to talk about. But yet, here we are.
And yet, here we are.
Because, of course, even when there's nothing to talk about, there's something to talk about. Thanks for joining us. If you're hanging out in that YouTube stream, hit that like button, like Bastion told you to do. And, of course, like Katie will tell you to do frequently throughout the show. Good weekend?
Yeah, good weekend.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, delightful. Hung out with some friends, had some downtime, got some chores done around the house. A combination of productive and lazy.
You're so productive during these dog days, we learned.
This is one of the reasons why I like it.
Yeah.
I never get shit done when we're in season. Feels good to get stuff done. Katie, did you get stuff done this weekend?
I worked this weekend.
Oh, flex.
Some of us don't get
She had a
weekends
flu
off.
game on Sunday.
I had a flu game.
Oh, that's
on
right. You were doing Bears?
Friday
On
and
Friday.
Sunday.
Ugh.
And Sunday.
Yes, I did Bears this weekend.
Stupid Bears. JK,
go,
bear
go
down.
watch that show if you haven't. It was a good show.
Shout out to our CCO Bears crew. Things are getting exciting. Preseason has begun.
I can't bring myself to watch Bears preseason games. I can't.
Gonna be honest, did not watch a single second
And I
of
like
the Bears first preseason
I
game
get
yesterday.
that there are people that like lock in for that.
Yeah.
And like by all means, we have
Sure.
a show that you should watch and lock into.
Exactly.
But for some reason, I just cannot get into it.
Same. Especially once I heard that Caleb wasn't going to play a single snap.
Yeah, the starters
yesterday.
don't play.
I'm
It's
like, cool. I'm good. I'll tune in when the real games happen.
Also,
with the real
like,
players.
this is maybe unfair to point out, but like sometimes you'll be like on Twitter and you'll see like all of the Bears reporters tweet that like somebody ran a route and caught a ball, and it's like some fourth string wide receiver from Tyson Bagent, and you're just like, did I need to know that?
Right, exactly. But
But then again,
you can
I
flip
will be
anything
the
on its
guy
head. Like we're out
tweeting
in Vegas, like
Yuki
aggressively live
Kawamura
tweeting about what's
exactly.
happening with Yuki Kawamura.
That's a good.
because these things matter.
These things matter.
Speaking of things that matter, the NBA is about to drop their full season schedule later this week. Shams already leaked the opening night slate and the Christmas Day slate, which we touched on in our Friday show.
Are we going to get to go through every single game and predict the wins and losses again?
Didn't we do that last year?
Our annual tradition.
Yeah,
A tradition
I'm for
like
it.
no other.
Can't wait.
We might have to wait for Dave to get back, though.
Yeah, we should wait until we're all here for that, of course. But like this was strange. The NBA, did this used to also be on Good Morning America and the Today Show? Is that
The
new?
NBA finds a way to
just weasel themselves
broadcast
into all kinds of
their
places?
things.
It's
They
true.
just do.
They're very excited to announce the full schedule of games between ABC, ESPN, NBC, and Peacock for the 25-26 regular season. The full schedule will be announced on Thursday this week, August 14th. They are going to leak some additional primetime matchups on those various morning programs tomorrow morning.
Over under 0.5 games that the Bulls are in of those matchups that
are highlighted
that are
in their
highlighted
sneak
in
peek
their
tomorrow.
sneak peek.
I'm guessing 0.
You're guessing under.
I'm going to take the under.
Katie's
Katie's
taking the
also
under.
taking the under.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, speaking of over-unders, I was curious over-under on nationally televised games the Bulls will be in this upcoming season, which is what Bulls fans always want to know. no surprise that they're not part of opening night or Christmas. The Bulls, I believe, have not been a part of the Christmas Day slate since the 3 Alphas season of 2016-17. That was the last time.
Sick.
Because coming into 21-22, nobody expected them to be as good as they were. If people knew that the DeMar, Zach, Lonzo team was going to be like at the top of the East coming into the Christmas Day slate, they probably would have been there.
But then even after they had that season, they weren't.
Correct. So I believe last season the Bulls had 5, 2 on ESPN and 3 on NBA TV, if you count those as nationally televised games. So if you set the over-under on 5.5 for coming into this season, I would guess the under. What about you?
I would guess the under.
Yeah.
But I will say I've been workshopping some hot takes, and I feel like
Love it.
I'm not ready to unleash them yet, but I think that the following year, or maybe at some point during this season, the national media will start to pay a little bit more attention to the Bulls.
You think so?
I do, yeah.
I
don't know why, but I just am getting that feeling.
That's a hot take that needs some workshopping.
I think honestly what it is that the East is just so bad that there's going to be a team that takes a step forward, and if the Bulls play anything close to what they played down the stretch of last season, save for the actual game that mattered there in the play-in, they're going to get some attention because they're going to be 10 games over 500, and Giddey's going to be 20, 10, and 10, and Kobe's going to be 30 points. So if that stuff happens, which I know is a long shot, and I know the competition level that they played in the second half of the year wasn't what it was during the first 2/3, 3/4.
New.
But I just think given the relative strength of the East, there's a chance.
That is a hot take, sir.
I'm workshopping.
I'm here for it. Keep
workshopping.
workshopping it. Shout out to our pal Johnny Pigeon in the chat who said hard under on that at 5.5 nationally televised games for the Bulls. Meanwhile, Viper Strike Zero said just announced the Bulls versus Hawks playing game already. Well, I would say, Viper Strike, that's already been announced by me because it has.
Hawks.
But not the Hawks part.
Heat.
You can book. Bulls Heat playing tournament, book it. It's already been announced. It's happening.
The only
Hawks
question is
might be
where.
a top 6 seed.
The only question is where. Will it be in Chicago again like it was last year, or Miami like it was the previous 2?
Well, AK loves that home court advantage, Goat.
That's true. He does.
Really needs it. The other thing that I'm curious about when it comes to the schedule release later this week, which parts of the schedule look like tough stretches and which parts look like difficult stretches? Because you just noted the run the Bulls went on last year after the All-Star break. And I went back and looked because I was curious, and boy, they really did just cook in the month of March and in the month of April. They won 7 of their last 8 games. And then also there was a stretch in March where they won, 8 out of 10 or something like that? I mean, it was nuts. We talked about the level of competition in those games, and some of the better teams that they played and did manage to beat had key players missing, star players missing, and it was a combination of those kind of victories and beating up on teams that were tanking their way towards the bottom. So, is the Bulls' schedule front-heavy or, back-loaded with lots of difficult matchups? Because that could determine where they are as far as what are they thinking about trying to get out of the play-in tournament this year, as in to the real playoffs, or are they thinking about another few ping pong balls?
Well, yeah, I don't think they're ever going to be thinking about a few extra ping pong balls. But
what will
even
we as Bulls fans be thinking about?
But I think that's our challenge for next year, is to be prepared for the fact that they're not going to be chasing ping pong balls.
Oh, definitely not.
And to also, you mentioned the stretches. They started 18-20, and then they lost a bunch of games leading into the break, and it was this is tailor-made to tank. And then they traded for their own pick back, and it was okay, why'd you do that? And it turned out because they really wanted to compete, so to speak. But yeah, it's just at the end of the day, you play 82 games, you play the same number of teams that everybody else plays for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But you just got a lot of these Eastern Conference teams where you're probably not going to be losing 3 or 4 times to the Boston Celtics and to the, whatever other teams that typically would take the season series.
Right.
I just think it's going to be a lot more even this year, not just for the top teams, but all the way throughout.
Right. The other thing, of course, will or will we not see some TNT Bulls action, a.k.a. Bulls on TNT playing at home? Oh, wait. TNT? Is it just officially dead now?
I guess so, yeah.
There's no. What are they going to be? The Peacock
consult
Bulls
with Jason
now?
Pat on that one.
We are going to take an early break here because on the other side of that break, we are going to be joined by Jake Fischer, who we talked to earlier today to get his latest thoughts on the reporting regarding Josh Giddey, restricted free agent. Hit the like button. Today's show brought to you by Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are free to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of their high-quality products. They've got everything you need to elevate your summer, featuring over 100 different strains to choose from on their menu, which is an expertly curated menu from their knowledgeable staff. Plus, they offer easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Get in, get out, get on with your day. Even if you're a pro, they probably have something you haven't tried yet, so try all of their wonderful different products. Check out the Wellness Advisor Staff Picks collection as well. Visit Sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases with promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Also, for returning customers, use promo code CHGO50 to get 50% off one Cresco Lab Brands item. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day, only for 21 and older and Illinois MedCard holders.
Matt, quick question for you.
Yep.
What app makes it easier and cheaper than ever to get your favorite tickets to your favorite events?
Game
Prices at Game Time actually go down the closer you get to tip-off. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And they have our favorite, the Zone deal. You can save more when you choose the section and you let Game Time do the selecting. They take your seats and they cut it down by 60%. Fees are included. You can know your total upfront with no surprises, no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in-app before you buy, because you all want to know how much leg room you've got. We like to stretch out here on the CHGO Bulls set. They have the lowest price guarantee. They will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
We roll along here. CHGO Bulls on Monday afternoon. Peck, Goat, Katie hanging out in studio. Up next, earlier today, because the dude has a busy schedule, we hopped on remotely from various locations to chat with the People's Insider, Jake Fischer. Does great reporting along with our pal Mark Stein for the Steinline Substack. Say that 5 times fast. Which you should subscribe to if you aren't already. They do great stuff there. To get his thoughts on some of the reporting he did on the Steinline over the weekend and last week, about Josh Giddey and what's going on and what he's been hearing and the Warriors and other teams and all that jazz. So that's on deck. Katie, if you will.
Hit the like.
Right now, we're pleased to be joined on CHGO Bulls by the People's Insider, the one and only. Check out his videos for Bleacher Report, and of course, subscribe to that Steinline to catch his NBA reporting with our guy Mark Stein. Follow him at Jake L. Fisher on the Twitter machine. Jake joining us on CHGO Bulls. Jake, what's up, man? Thanks for being here.
What's up, guys? How are you? Appreciate it.
Oh, just sitting here waiting for the Josh Giddey contract to break like we have been all summer long. You had some pretty interesting reporting on Giddey over the past week, and also more reporting over the weekend. Some interesting stuff about the Warriors being one of maybe a few teams who at the midnight hour of the NBA offseason might still be interested in trying to pry Josh Giddey away from the Bulls in this restricted free agent situation that they are in. What can you tell us about the latest you're hearing there?
So the word choice you used, I think, is interesting, being that I definitely want to clarify that I don't think the Warriors are trying to pry Josh Giddey away. I think the Warriors like Josh Giddey and like him enough that with all these pieces still on the board, there was interest communicated to Josh Giddey's side of things that, hey, this is a player that we have been high on since the draft. If you guys recall back in 2021, right after Chicago took a certain player out of Florida State, right? That was the same draft? No, was that 2020?
No, that was 2020.
That was 2020.
All right. Apologies. But that was just a Patrick Williams.
Gotta throw a shot in there every chance you get.
But honestly, the Patrick Williams, to take a totally relevant sidestep here, the Patrick Williams contract coming out of nowhere last summer, where the Bulls had zero competition to pay him that number, and it obviously has not come to fruition in a valuable deal. I do think is impacting the Josh Giddey conversation between Chicago and Giddey, being that the Bulls are right back in that situation again where they are not really bidding against anybody else. And that has been helpful, I guess, for them to not really change their wiggle room in that $20 million average annual value. So to bring it back to Golden State, the Warriors, I think, got roped into this originally because the Bulls do have some interest in Josh Giddey, and they have talked about Giddey in various transaction cycles. Someone reported it, I forget originally, but whatever trade deadline it was before Caruso went to Oklahoma City ultimately, maybe it was 2 years before that, the Bulls and the Warriors were like on the phone at the 11th hour of a trade deadline talking Alex Caruso. And then flash forward, they were involved in the Zach LaVine stuff before he went to Sacramento. I don't think this past year Golden State was ever like so in on Zach LaVine. I think he was one of several, we need another offensive engine guy. Let's talk Chicago. And all those conversations, the Bulls have always mentioned we like Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga's side likes Chicago. Kuminga's side definitely looks at Chicago as a potential landing spot for him all the way forward to next summer in unrestricted free agency if he were to get to that. So because of all these, love triangle pieces, flashback to that 2021 draft to really get back on task. I think the Warriors and Thunder both at 6 and 7 thought it was going to be like a Kuminga Giddey toss-up, and the Warriors were very prepared to take either of those guys. I think the consensus was that Kuminga was the higher rated prospect. So I think Golden State was even like preparing to take Josh Giddey at number 7. I think a lot of the mock drafts had Kuminga 6, Giddey 7 kind of deal. So there is some, I still think there's interest there from Golden State. I mean, I know there is in terms of like big playmaking guard. To me, maybe I don't want to put words in Warriors people's mouths. To me, it feels like a Sean Livingston kind of deal where like you get that bigger guard who can rebound and push the pace and help Steph play off ball. That's still always been like an ongoing evolution there. But to really bring this to a close, like the prying Giddey from Chicago thing, I don't think Golden State's trying to do that because as we wrote on Sunday at the Stein line, it was just very communicated to me that like as much as they like him, and in theory, like if they're going to lose Kuminga, getting a player of similar like ilk, like lottery level talent of the same draft class who's still 22 is like appealing and intriguing to them. But for the Warriors to remain under the first apron with all the base year compensation complications, with them not wanting to put out Moses Moody or Buddy Hield in any sign and trade for Kuminga, it really seems like a Chicago deal between Golden State and the Bulls, with Giddey going to Golden State seems like so unlikely to me. And generally speaking, the Bulls have just told everyone since the combine they don't want to talk sign and trade with Josh Giddey at all. So that's kind of their leverage point here. But Giddey does have some interest from other teams, which is his kind of leverage point in all this, if that ramble makes sense.
No, I think, from the Warriors' perspective, also maybe some regret in not taking LaMelo Ball and taking James Wiseman in that draft, getting another big guard that can play make and push off the ball. So maybe something there. But I think to your point, like, to me, what stood out from this was like the idea that there were other options for Giddey. And we've kind of been operating under the assumption that not only will he be back, but that there aren't really a lot of other landing spots. Does it feel to you like you mentioned the 4 for 80? Is there any sort of wiggle room on the Bulls end to move up to closer to the number that Giddey was looking for? And if not, do you feel like there's any threat from Giddey's camp to take the qualifying offer, bet on himself, and become an unrestricted free agent next summer?
Yeah, I think all 4 of these restricted free agents, Giddey, Kuminga, Cam Thomas, and Quentin Grimes, I think there's a non-zero chance that all 4 of them are going to take the qualifying offer. And that's not just like conjecture and the fact that it's a thing that is available to them. I think there's enough friction in all these situations where like Kuminga certainly doesn't feel valued enough by the Warriors. Giddey certainly doesn't feel valued enough by the Bulls front office. Cam Thomas definitely doesn't feel valued enough from the Brooklyn front office. Quentin Grimes' situation is a little bit more tricky, being that like they traded for him at the deadline, so obviously they want him. They've been so clear communicating that they still want him, But like with all these situations, just like the trade deadline, just like the rookie scale extensions that come up like right at the deadline before the season starts, deadlines create action in the NBA. So believe the deadline to take a qualifying offer this year is October 1st, right?
Mhm.
So when we get back from Labor Day and all this stuff is still hanging in the ether, because like we're coming to you August 11th. I'm about to go to Tulum on Thursday for a bachelor party.
Enjoy,
Like,
man.
Max, good for you.
like I don't think anything's happening anytime soon, especially after my phone calls last week. But everyone comes back from vacation, starting to get a little bit closer. It's early September now. Does one of these teams that likes Josh Giddey just decide? And I wish I could say more, but I was sworn to secrecy about, because I don't know. I think this is still kind of early. Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like you guys at the top of this were like, oh, we're in the middle of August and we're still waiting for Josh Giddey. Like if you really think about this as the June 30th to October 1st window, we're like right in the middle. We're not even close. And that's not how it typically goes. But the way this RFA market developed, you guys have talked about this plenty. There's no team with the cap space that is willing to just throw. Like, if the Nets want to throw an offer sheet tomorrow, they could, but like they're not going to do that. So that's why we got this stalemate across the board here. But we get closer to September. Maybe one of these other teams is like, you know what? We got our guys back in the gym. Our point guard spot isn't exactly what we're looking for. Or, knock on wood, worst case scenario. We're seeing it in the NFL right now. Guys come back and someone gets hurt. Like a tweak of the ankle, hopefully not like a season-ending thing. And all of a sudden, someone's starting to readdress. I mean, this is not really so related, but Karl-Anthony Towns got traded to New York, like right around this time period we're talking about upcoming, really as a ripple effect of the Knicks recognizing that Mitchell Robinson wasn't going to be back in time until January. Like they started looking at, okay, what center reinforcements, like should we trade Mitch maybe? And all of a sudden they turned that into Karl-Anthony Towns. So once teams get back into the building, they got their players in the building, they're starting to really take shape of what this roster that is on paper right now is actually looking like in their facility. I think there's going to be, for all these teams, increased conversation, and we'll see what happens then. But there's no incentive right now to do that. It's going to have to be when that October 1st deadline is coming up, if an injury were to occur, when everyone's back and starting to really talk shop again.
Just to follow up on that real quick,
Yeah.
you mentioned like guys, some of the restricted guys not feeling valued based on the offers that they're getting from their incumbent teams. Like, is your sense, at least as of right now, still that Giddey does want to return to Chicago? Because to me, it's like this is not only the place that's probably going to pay him the most, but also the place where he'll have the most opportunity. So I kind of have the sense that he does want to be back, assuming there's a good deal for him on the table.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've seen the social media pictures of him with teammates and stuff and whatnot. I do think that him and Billy Donovan have always had a really good thing since he got there. I think Billy's been hard on him at times, right? Because he's an old point guard and a coach's, coach, and you're the extension of me on the floor type deal. And there's always going to be some type of, when you are a objectively net negative shooter, like there's always going to be being benched in fourth quarter scrutinization stuff that is going to come until that weakness is fully remedied. But I've always heard that they've had a really good coach point guard thing. It is a little bit wonky, being that obviously Kobe White is going to come up for his own big payday next year. And like, in theory, you would want, if you're a frugal front office, you would want to be saving some type of spending power in order to be able to have both these guys. And I think that's part of the context here too. Like Kobe White has had his breakouts. He isn't really a point guard, even though he can be a point guard, and he's good on ball, but like what exactly is his position? But he's not the floor general type stuff. And Giddey obviously purely is that, but when he's not on ball, he's got his own deficiency we just talked about. So that is a bit wonky to me, but I've never heard that he doesn't want to be there. So I would not think otherwise. I think number one, though, he does want to be compensated to what he deems fair. And I've been saying this for years now. Whenever year it was, 23, 24, and they're all blend together now. I've been doing this so long, and post-pandemic is like so hard to.
Yeah.
Whenever Manuel quickly got traded to Toronto, and then that following summer he got slapped with that 5-year, 175 extension for not really doing anything other than showing promise of being a long-term starter. Every single player coming off their rookie deal who has shown promise of being a long-term starter, especially one who's been traded for a guy who was getting offers of multiple first-round picks, who just helped win a title, who just signed a 4-year, $80 million extension in his own right. Like, you think you're going to be paid that type of Emmanuel quickly money. So that's kind of set the marketplace is fixed, right? There's only 30 teams and there's only 15 full roster spots and what have you. And the cap is what it is. And there's very limited percentages of the cap that you're allowed to negotiate depending on years of service and blah, blah, blah. And like one case study, one benchmark sets the comp for that position in that marketplace. Like it wasn't so coincidental that Jakob Poeltl and Miles Turner's contract numbers were virtually similar. There's such different varying degrees of guarantees and all that type of stuff, but like positional, starter, sixth man, role, like those comparisons really do set the market for what other guys want to get.
I know that you said in your Bleacher Report live stream a few days ago, you mentioned the Warriors by name. You also said like some other teams that I would like to say, but I can't say. But you mentioned some plurality of Eastern Conference teams that also have some degree of interest in Josh Giddey. I'm curious what you can perceive from the people you've talked to as far as like, Goat and I were talking about it on Friday, reacting to your reporting. Like, is this just sort of late offseason stuff that Giddey's representation or maybe Kuminga's representation are trying to throw out there to try and get these offers from their current teams to come up a little bit? Because Goat and I ran down the list of Eastern Conference teams and tried to figure out which of them could be seeing Giddey as a useful piece to add. And I know you were talking earlier about the whole like, well, when we actually get back to training camp, we'll see what's what with our roster evaluation, and maybe we're not where we want to be, and then that some other teams could get involved at the last second. But do you think some of it is just trying to like, agents trying to get that number up to stay where they are?
Well, if I can ask you a question, what teams did you hypothetical?
I mean, we started at the top and made our way down, and like Goat and I's results are kind of like just maybe the bottom feeders are the teams that could see Giddey being a useful piece for them.
Yeah. I'll say like at this point of the offseason, admittedly, when you come back from I was in nature for like 14 days. I turned my phone off for 6 out of 14 days, came back, had a Bleacher Report show to do, and wanted to bring my most freshest information. And I made a couple calls and just had heard a couple of teams were like poking around on Giddey. And there was definitely several that I talked to people on Giddey's side and people on those teams, and they all confirmed that like, yes, there's at least like interest in quotes. And look, does that like certainly help Josh Giddey? Yes. And like, do I maybe have a bit of a soft spot for him at this point in time, just like I do for Jonathan Kuminga and Cam Thomas and Quentin Grimes, because they're human beings who have had their names, run through the Twitter mill? Yes. So was that like a little bit beneficial to his side compared to Chicago? For sure. Was I like out here trying to, wave a Josh Giddey green and yellow Australian flag? No, like I think we were very tempered in the reporting. Like it's funny to see the aggregation of like, there's a Josh Giddey sweepstakes now. Like definitely didn't say that. I think what we try to do at the Stein line, and what I've always tried to do since I've gotten into this transaction side of things, is like bring as much context as possible. And sometimes people are going to overreact to it and think that means it's happening. Other times people are going to underreact to it. And so like, you're just throwing everything out there you hear. And it's just, I always try to bring forth, I think, relevant background information that like helps contextualize what the situation is, because there are plenty of Bulls fans who are listening to your show who are like, what's going on with Josh Giddey? And this is what's going on with Josh Giddey. He's waiting. The Bulls have no reason to offer more. They don't want to talk to a sign and trade. But like there are some teams who are like, hey, you know what? We like this guy, but Chicago's just like not fun to deal with. So we're gonna hold off for now. But maybe come, the fall and whatever. So
How can they not be fun to deal with? Whoever doesn't trade with the Bulls wins the trade. Like, come on.
well, how many trades have they actually completed in the Torres Karnasovis era?
-2.
There you go. They're far more, I'd say, to different degrees of the spectrum. I'd say Chicago and Toronto, and we'll see how Toronto operates now that Masai's not necessarily running the show. They've been the two teams every year. People around the league are like, what's Chicago doing? Like, we call them, they like our guys, we like their guys, but like we don't know what direction they're going. We don't know, like, they say they would move Vooch, but like their price is this. Like, are they actually serious? Like, there's that type of stuff talked about with Chicago all the time. So I think that general how they operate, how they're perceived, plus they have literally been telling people since the combine, we're not talking sign and trade, compared to Golden State, where the Warriors right now are definitely signaling like none of your sign and trade offers are good enough. Sorry. But they were more than happy to listen and say, hey, Aaron Turner, Jonathan Kuminga, if you can go get a really good sign and trade, bring it to us and we'll do it. But it has to be of value. It has to be X, Y, and Z. The Bulls have not, to my understanding, said that ever and don't plan to. It seems like they traded Caruso for this guy. They apparently liked him dating back to the draft, and that's that. And they value him at a certain number because they don't think they have to do more. And we'll see how this all kind of comes to fruition.
I think that's a good place to wrap, but I did want to get one more in. Just you mentioned like the bigger picture of like what are the Bulls doing? What's their plan? How does Kobe's free agency factor into things? How does Ayo Dosunmu's free agency factor into things? Do you have a sense, or when you talk to other teams, do they have any sense of like the Bulls have started to turn over the roster? They've gotten younger. They've gotten into more of a style of play that they want to do. Do they have like a specific like concrete plan of what they're building towards, or is it just kind of figuring it out on the fly as they sort of evaluate some of these younger players?
Well, number one, they have proven they're not going to make any trade that they don't deem is of fair value. So, like, we're not going to see them just like move Nick Vucevic for a fake second round pick at this point. Maybe finally we get to February, that'll be different. But I do think, generally speaking, they have signaled around the league that they've got ownership support to be more of a rebuildy young youth movement team than in years past. And I think that was pretty loudly backed up by finally moving Zach LaVine for not as much as they were hoping to originally, right? Like LaVine was on the trade block for 3 years, and they really only got back that pick swap from San Antonio. I mean, I know they like Kevin Huerter. Obviously, they brought him back on a new deal. But like Zach Collins, like there wasn't a major blue chip prospect in that deal.
It was the ability to keep their own pick. Yeah,
exactly. So that's not what they originally set out for, right? So I think that is really it, though. Like they're still kind of in this, all right, like we're not going for it, but we're definitely not like bottom of the barrel or rebuilding, but we are in more of a youth movement with more patience kind of deal. I mean, all of the reporting has come out about the extensions that both the front office and, well, first Billy, I think, and then the front office got. And it does seem like there's more patience involved. But like in terms of what the concrete plan is, I can't say I've been directly told like this is our 3-step plan compared to other teams have definitely like they're willing to share that. But Chicago's just cagier about that type of stuff, candidly. They're more we've got something cooking and yeah, you wish you knew what we were up to. So
AK's got a great plan.
I really do.
Nobody knows what it is. All right, we'll let you go, Jake. Bulls Nation, follow Jake L. Fischer. Make sure you subscribe to that Steinline Substack to get all of his great reporting along with our pal Mark Stein. Jake, until next time, we appreciate it, and have a great time down there in Tulum, pal.
Thank you, guys.
That was the People's Insider, Jake Fischer, who joined us earlier today. Fascinating stuff. We are going to talk about what he had to say, plus some more contextual reporting from a few other sources today and yesterday. We'll talk about all of that after you hit the like button while we share these words from our friends and sponsors. Today's show brought to you by Four Seasons. Summer is here. It is hot. It's too hot. That means you need AC you can rely on. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric has been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. Right now is the time to get your AC checked out, and Four Seasons experts are ready to help you with AC installation, maintenance, and repair. Their expert technicians ensure you always receive reliable service, and Four Seasons doesn't charge more for service during nights, weekends, or holidays. Love that. Save up to $4,000 on new new comfort systems with Four Seasons. New AC units from just $39 a month. AC furnace combos just $57 a month. They are your trusted local experts. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. Because for all the right reasons, call 866 Four Seasons. AC.
Dave never tells us where he goes on vacation. It's like taboo to ask.
True.
My best guess is that he is seeking out baby Joey
Oh.
to go and find out why. Why do they make shades so expensive when they don't need to? But Shady Rays, y'all, the moment where you realize you left your favorite sunglasses somewhere,
Ugh.
maybe it was on top of your car,
The worst.
or at the gas station, or at the beach.
Hate it.
We've all been there. I left mine in the car during this ad. Matt, you went to go grab yours because you forgot them, but
Sure did.
try them on and show the people because
They're here now.
Shady Rays changed the game. These are the sunglasses made for real life, seriously good looking, as you can see to my right here, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you break them or if you lose them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. Now that is how I want to shop because you always have to have a company that has your back. Shady Rays is the eyewear that has yours. We have teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off premium polarized shades. Try for yourself.
Try for yourself. We roll along CHGO Bulls on Monday afternoon. Hit the like button if you didn't do it during that ad break. Shout out to the pal Jake Fischer for joining us earlier today remotely to share what he's hearing and some more context around the reporting from his Bleacher Report live stream last week and then his Steinline written column over the weekend. And look, so I think he was very quick to clarify for my first question. He did not say like.
He said, "You are the problem, Matt."
Well, yeah.
He said, "You are the problem."
When am I not the problem? It's like the Warriors like Josh Giddey. The Warriors have been interested in Josh Giddey in varying degrees over time, going all the way back to their draft class. They are not like actively pursuing a Giddey sign and trade, so to speak, right now. But you say that that's a fair clarification of how he put it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they have interest in him theoretically, but similar
Right.
to how we discussed Vucevic and the Warriors, I'm sure 30 teams would want Josh Giddey at the right price, but we're not talking about Josh Giddey at the right price. We're talking about him at the price that the Bulls are not willing to match, or
Right.
at the price that another team can afford. And as he started to address, the Warriors cap situation in terms of how close they are to the first apron where they're hard capped, they've got to bring in Horford and DeAnthony Melton. They've got to get something done with Kuminga. They don't really have a way to make this work at this point. And so while there's interest there, I mean, Jake made it pretty clear that he doesn't think anything's going to happen. And I think, as we talked about on Friday, for a variety of different reasons, I tend to agree with that. The bigger thing that I was interested to hear from him, and which we started to talk about, was what other teams could theoretically be interested in Giddey, and how much pressure is that putting on the Bulls?
Right.
And then one step further, which I continue to see in our comments and online, the threat of Giddey taking the qualifying offer because 480 is such a slap in the face.
Right. Which and Fischer said, the way he's hearing things about not only Giddey but the others, Kuminga, Grimes, and so forth, there's a non-zero chance that all four of them end up playing on qualifying offers this year.
Yeah, Big Dave is currently in the process of
I mean,
taking a victory lap.
Shout out Big Dave, wherever he
He's
is.
victory lapping in advance.
I think, and shout out to our pal Michael Walton, who I saw going back and forth with one of the Giddey committee on Twitter just earlier today, saying, look, and you've said similar things, the options essentially for Giddey right now, sign the qualifying offer, essentially a 1-year prove-it deal with the Bulls, and then become an unrestricted free agent a year from now. And then maybe if you bet on yourself and win betting on yourself, you're going to go get paid on a multi-year deal with all kinds of guaranteed money a year from now. You either do that, or you take the $20 million average annual value contract that the Bulls have been putting in front of you. The reported 4 years, 80, which I just saw somebody in our comments say is a slap in the face. Saw somebody on Twitter earlier today refer to it as a slap in the face. And everybody who calls it a slap in the face compares it to Patrick Williams, who the person in our chat did, or Jalen Suggs, who the person I saw on Twitter earlier today did. First of all, not a slap in the face, not a slap in the face to be offered $80 million guaranteed dollars. Unless you are talking about a player who has been in this league so long and has earned a higher figure, which I don't think Josh Giddey has. If you're talking about prime LeBron or prime Steph or prime Kevin Durant in today's salary cap figures, then yeah, an average annual value of $20 million is a slap in the face. But Josh Giddey is none of those players. He's nowhere close to that tier of players who you can make the slap in the face claim towards. And the part about other contracts being compared to it, yeah, those are bad contracts. The Bulls are trying to be done with bad contracts.
That's really where it comes down to for me. Like he mentioned the Emmanuel Quickley contract, which was like 5,175, I think, something like that. Like I get that the player would want to use that as sort of an anchor in negotiation talks, because like that's what a similar caliber player got on his restricted deal. So that's what I want. I play the same position. I play a similar role. That's the going rate for these now. We're determining that is the value of that kind of player. I'm in that same caliber, so I want that kind of money. And I get that. I think that like is a sensible way for them to start negotiations. Like you should be asking for whatever number you want. Like I don't have a problem with that. But the issue is a couple of things. Number one, this is not a situation where you're paying the player for necessarily the production that he's given you. You're trying to pay him for the production that he will give you. And the fact of the matter is just Giddey has not been consistent enough to know or to feel confident in paying him that much, because that much is not a good contract. Mm-hmm. Like it's not a good contract for Giddey, or I'm sorry, for Quickley. It's not a good contract for, maybe for a guy like Jalen Johnson, who was like a fringe all-star last year. But even him, like he's got so many injury questions that it's hard to feel confident about. So that's the first part. The second part is this is not a Steph or LeBron situation. This is a restricted free agent. And like the reality of the situation is that they are in a position of power with the way that this current landscape works. And the landscape is not the same on a year-to-year basis. But in this specific instance, there aren't teams that can pay him. And so the Bulls have that leverage. They also are seemingly not very excited or willing or open to doing sign-in trades where they could work with another team to get Giddey the number that he wants, the way that they did with DeRozan last year, right, because he was unrestricted. So if another team comes in, the Bulls can just say, sorry, we're matching it. And that really deters other teams from entering the mix as somebody that could potentially put an offer down, whether it's for him as a free agent restricted or in a sign-in trade. And so all of those factors come together and just depress the market value. And like that is unfortunate for Giddey. I tend to agree. Like, I think that the narrative with what Jake said, that the narrative has been really hard on him. And like, I don't like feel great about that. Like, I don't want to just sit here and like criticize Giddey because I don't think he's like a superstar player at this point. I do think he's a really talented player and I want the Bulls to find a way to retain him. But just because they have an opportunity to pay him doesn't mean that they need to, because to your point, like they need to have good contracts on their books. They cannot put themselves in a position where they are up against their hard cap every year because they just are stuck with contracts that not even are bad or like actively damaging, but just that aren't good. And that prevents you from building the team around him that you need to do because he has those limitations that you need to make up for.
Bobby Speak saying, I disagree and has always disagreed with you guys. Have always disagreed with you guys. He's worth the money. $20 million is an insult. He couldn't do anything till Zach was gone.
$20 is definitely an
$20 is an insult. If I were Josh Giddey, I would be insulted by a $20 offer on a 4-year deal.
But like, again, even if, let's say, like I tend to disagree with that.
It's not an insult, y'all.
I don't feel like
not
it's insulting.
an insult.
But like, even if Giddey feels that way, because like that's a big part of it too. It's not necessarily what I think. It's like, how does Giddey feel about the offer?
Yeah.
I do think that's a fair point to make. But even if he feels insulted by that, what's the alternative? It's either take the qualifying offer or nothing, because there's no other teams out there that are going to give him an offer. Otherwise, we would have seen it. And there's no other teams there that are going to try to work out a sign and trade. And so whether he's insulted by it or not, this is the best thing that's available to him. And I think that's kind of where ultimately we'll land. Like, maybe this doesn't resolve until closer to October 1st, which is, I believe, the deadline. Maybe it's like a training camp thing when like Jake was saying, when teams kind of get back into camp and like realize their point guard situation isn't what they want. Maybe then there are some teams that like start to generate interest. But even at that point, then the Bulls, if somebody makes an offer, which by the way, nobody has the money to go out and make an offer.
Right.
Then the Bulls can just say, okay, fine, we're going to match it. So I think like taking the emotional component out of this is important in the way that you evaluate it, because there just isn't money there. And if there was money there, this would be a totally different thing. The Bulls would probably have to be closer to 30 million. Or maybe they, like, it sounds like they're not even really budging from 20 in terms of meeting somewhere in the middle at 25.
Yeah.
Maybe they would be forced to do that or more willing to do that. But just the fact is, like, you're worth what somebody is willing to pay you, and nobody is willing to pay him more than 20 right now.
Right. Hopeful Gamer in the chat said, we keep saying 30 mil for this or that player isn't a good contract, but the league keeps handing them out. 30 million is now the standard for good but not great starters coming off the rookie deals. Okay, only one thing, Hopeful Gamer. Everyone around the league was handing out that kind of 30 million average annual salary on a 4 or 5 year deal for good but not great players until they stopped. And they stopped for various reasons, whether it be the cap, the CBA, everything that they're dealing with right now. That was a different case. We talked about it on a show earlier in one of our previous weeks of Dog Days content when Bobby Marks was talking about the lack of 4 or 5 year deals that were signed this summer. Very few compared to the year before and the year before that, because teams are starting to realize that handing out $30 million a year contracts on 4 or 5 year lengths is really hamstringing them when you are giving them to guys on your roster who are good but not great. You obviously have to spend big on the top tier talent that you have on your roster, idealistically, unless you're AK and then you don't need it. But it's a lot harder to spend that big on players who are good but not great. And somebody else just said in the chat, like, I mean, come on, 20 sounds low when you think about the fact that the mid-level in a couple years from now will be like 16 million, which is, again, why the other thing that I don't think is insulting to anybody that should be considered, and I know, Goat, you're not as big of a fan of it, is considering a shorter-term deal. Both sides, there's upside to a shorter-term deal. You know, obviously, if he does come out and turn into this all-star caliber player this coming season and the Bulls are better and maybe kind of a competitive team, and you're the Bulls, you might regret not locking him up for 4 or 5 years and instead locking him up for only 2 or 3 with maybe an option in there. But then you can find a figure that you're much happier with. If you're Josh Giddey in that sense, while still getting lots of guaranteed millions of dollars in the meantime.
Yeah, and I get that. I just feel like if you're going to sign him. Sign him to something that allows you to keep him and get him on a valuable deal. And I'm of the belief that the longer these deals go out, assuming that the deal doesn't raise at a faster rate than the cap, that the out years will be more valuable than in the short term. And that's, I think, really what this Bulls team needs to be worried about, is like they're not going to be competitive in the near term. So they have to put themselves in a position where they have the ability to be competitive in those out years, and getting him on a contract that I would determine at this point, at least, as a value deal in 4 or 5 years from now, that puts them in a position where they can do that. So I don't want them to be in a situation like where they are with Kobe and Io right now, where, yeah, it was a good value deal when they signed them, but they weren't able to do anything with that because they weren't competitive as a team. And now if you're trying to reorient things, you've got to pay those guys way more than what they're making now, to where you just have the ability to bring your guys back, pay them what you deem market value, but you're still not a good team.
Right.
So I think the flexibility is really key here. And I don't feel like 3 years gives you that much added flexibility, because you're still locking yourself in to the same roster for the next 3 years. But ideally, when the team gets good, like, you're going to have to re-sign him to presumably more. And so for me, I would rather just like find a way to move on sooner or lock in. And I think that's part of why this time, this portion of like where the Bulls are in their timeline is so fascinating, because what we're talking about with Giddey here is impacting what we're going to see with Kobe and Io, as Jake said.
Yeah. And so like there were a few other NBA reporters over the last 24 hours talking about the Giddey stuff and the Kuminga stuff and some interesting context. And for those who are thinking among Bulls Nation, 4 years, 80, if that offer was on the table for Josh Giddey from the Bulls, is insulting. Just, for context, Anthony Slater of ESPN was talking about how the offer for Kuminga reportedly was 2 years, 45, with not a player option, but a team option. And yes, that's more average annual value for Kuminga, but it's way less guaranteed money than the 4 years, 80 that the Bulls are offering Josh Giddey. And Katie, I don't know if you have that one excerpt from Anthony Slater that you want to put up now, but he said, quote, "The Warriors have not upped their offer, and Kuminga has indicated to those close to him that the $7.9 million qualifying offer is more appealing to him than the Warriors' current pitch. Something has to give before the October 1st deadline," end quote. Anthony Slater, ESPN. You can exactly apply the same something has to give theory to what Giddey and the Bulls are dealing with right now. And the Bulls reportedly are offering Giddey more years and more dollars. And, so it's understandable why Kuminga is considering the qualifying offer if it's just you're offering me a 2-year deal, but the second year is a team option.
It's basically a 1-year deal.
Yeah, it's basically a 1-year deal, which makes it very tradable for the Warriors, but Kuminga doesn't love that.
And that's exactly, like, the Warriors are right to try to get a team-friendly deal. They have leverage. Nobody else can really come in with the offer sheet that Kuminga wants, so they need to get themselves the most tradable contract that they can. Same for the Bulls. Like, whether they want to trade Giddey now or not, like, having guys that are on what are considered to be tradable contracts determines their value around the league. Like, I think the Bulls have gotten themselves into trouble by having guys that are more valuable to them than they are to anybody else in the league. Vucevic is a great example. On $20 million, like, that is not a bad contract in a vacuum, but the way that the league has trended, it has become one because nobody is willing to pay him that much kind of money. And so if you are the Bulls and you want to remain competitive, you have a good starting caliber center, but who's making more than, what his market value is. He's more valuable to the Bulls than he is to any other team. And that's why he's not very tradable. And that's why he's going to be on the team this year, because the Bulls aren't going to be willing to give him up for a second-round pick or buy him out. And so I think you're just trying to avoid getting yourself in those same situations. And that's why I have applauded the Bulls for the way that they've handled this so far, because it has not followed the same process that we've seen in years past when they have made damaging contract decisions, whether it's Patrick, whether it's Vooch, the list goes on. Even Zach LaVine, like, we thought at the time he was worth the max contract. That's what you did for guys that were 2-time All-Stars, that were not, like, outside of their prime at that point. But the way that the league changed, the CBA really impacted that. And so now teams have to be more, prudent, more fiscally responsible with their books. And I think that the players just haven't caught up to that yet. Like, the players are still under the same mindset of, this is the old CBA. We can get paid what we are worth, not what the league will give us. But
right.
At this point, like, it's kind of flipped.
Yeah, it is. And these restricted free agents just not having great options, especially in a summer when so many teams are cap strapped as they are, it's unfortunate. You feel bad for him. Like, as Jake was saying when we were chatting with him earlier today, like, got a soft spot for Giddey and these other guys who are just in this real tough spot and maybe not getting the deals and the dollars that they want and some people think deserve, just compared to restricted free agents in their shoes a year ago. And that's fine and fair, but all signs point to, I don't know about Kuminga, because Kuminga and the Warriors might be more happy with an eventual divorce and a sign and trade. The other thing that Jake definitely confirmed with us today is the Bulls were telling everybody around the league, stop asking us about Giddey sign trades because we like Giddey and we want to keep Giddey. That's what we keep hearing. We heard similar stuff from Jamal Collier in the same little blurb featuring Anthony Slater on the remaining free agents on ESPN.com. Collier said the Bulls and Giddey have dragged this on for months, but both sides are almost certain to come to an agreement before the end of the summer. Brett Siegel had a write-up for ClutchPoints that came out earlier today. I don't know if you have that one, Katie. Want to put that up? The Bulls and Warriors have had conversations with one another this offseason, but talks around the start of free agency were more so centered around Kuminga and potential interest Chicago held, sources said. At no point did the Bulls signal that Giddey was available, nor did the Dubs try to put together a package for him. Again, that was Brett Siegel of ClutchPoints from earlier today. So, a lot of other signs pointing to Giddey might not love these figures, and his reps might not love these figures. But it's still the most likely outcome with the most guaranteed money for Giddey, and that's why everybody thinks that that's where it will ultimately end up.
No cap space out there for teams that can offer him restricted contract. No, sign and trade suitors out there who the Bulls will be willing to work with to move Giddey on because they want to keep him. So the two options are take the offer or take the qualifying offer. And yeah, I mean, what is it? 11 million is a lot less than 20.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, somebody in the chat earlier today said, Giddey's holding out for every last dollar. Good for him. But it's like, but is he holding out to get every last dollar? Because where else is he going to go? And like Fischer, just talking about a minute ago that he's got a soft spot for some of these RFAs who are in a tough spot. Like, yes, it helps Giddey's side more than it helps the Bulls for there to be reporting going around that other teams have interest in said player. And it is maybe a futile attempt from Giddey's representation to try to scare AK into giving him a higher dollar figure on whatever the most recent offer was.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't anticipate Giddey taking the qualifying offer because that's such a pay cut from even what we're considering here, or some people are considering, I should say. Yeah. To be like a low ball.
Even if you compared it to like a 1-and-1 where you get $20 million for the first year, you're still just throwing away $9 million.
Yeah. And like maybe he's feeling like he can recoup that after a strong year. Ultimately, like, I do agree that like something will get done just because if you're Giddey, like, where else are you going to go that is going to give you the opportunity to be like the one with the ball in your hands the most on a big market team? Like, that's just, those opportunities aren't out there. I think there's value in that aside from the actual contract. And again, I don't blame Giddey at all for wanting to make as much money as he can. Like, that's his right and he's deserved that. And he's shown that he can be a really productive player that does deserve that kind of money. But the problem is that just like in this marketplace, it's just not there for him. And so, I think ultimately maybe it's a shorter term deal to where he can get back on the marketplace. But there's risk in that too, because then, if he doesn't play well or there are still questions or the marketplace remains not, very player friendly out there in the coming years, then it's not going to be like he can recoup all those lost earnings that he feels like the Bulls are sort of threatening him with right now. And
right.
So at a certain point, like locking in as much guaranteed money as you can, whether it seems like it's, a huge percentage of the cap or not, like this is a huge amount of dollars that is life-changing money. And I think that will sort of, come to fruition by the start of the season. I don't imagine this gets dragged out into the season or, it's very possible. Like Jake said, non-zero chance that he takes a qualifying offer, but that just is so much risk on his part, and really no risk for the Bulls because they can just keep him next year regardless.
And the other thing Jake said about, hey, we still got plenty of time. Our pal Fish just said the same. Nice calming final comment to end on, who said they have no reason to not hold out as long as possible on both sides. It'll get done. Feelings will be fine.
That was the one thing that Jake said is like, if you think about the grand scheme of this, like we feel like we've been talking about this for 2 months. Well,
we still have
October is the deadline, so we still got about 2 more.
Still got most of August and then all of September.
As Katie shakes her
Dog
head.
days. I love it. Real quick before we get out of here, Katie, the poll. People had opinions about the poll today.
Yeah, there's a lot of poll
The
opinions
best way to
out
make
there.
chocolate milk.
It was-
Options.
What is the best way to make chocolate milk? The winner is incorrect. The winner was chocolate syrup. plus
That
milk.
is the winner. That's the correct
Nope.
answer. That's what I voted for.
Second place was the correct answer, which is chocolate powder.
Get out of here.
Third place was none. What's with you losers?
Nobody likes chocolate milk?
And then last place was pre-mixed.
Pre-mixed. Somebody, I can't remember their name, I apologize, in the chat, brought up Oberweis specifically. And man, Oberweis chocolate milk. If you want to treat yourself to a bougie level of chocolate milk every once in a while, Oberweis, man. Incredible milkshakes,
I remember
incredible
the
dairy
days
products.
in middle school where we used to get the milk cartons and the chocolate milk ones from Oberweis. So good.
Oh, yeah, man. We had
good.
Oberweis delivered to our front porch every week in
Wow.
the glass bottles, like the olden days.
Yep.
Drink a lot of milk in our household.
What year was this?
The 90s, baby. The 90s. Yeah, it was a bit outdated of a thing, but some people still did it. Shout out to Oberweis for those weekly milk deliveries to your front door. All right, we'll get out of here for today. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Hit the like button if you haven't done it yet. Thank you to Jake Fischer for joining us today. First of another week of some fun guests coming through while Dave's taking some time off, just like while Goat was out of town. Tune in tomorrow to see who our guest is. It's somebody, honestly, a lot of people who've been asking us to have on for a while. Have a great Monday. See you real good. Shout out Katie.
We all silly like the mayor.